Part 1. They say marriage is work. No one tells you that sometimes the hardest job in the world is pretending everything's fine when your gut is screaming that it's not. My name is Eric. I'm 37, live in Northern Virginia, and until recently, I thought I had life figured out. I'm an IT systems analyst, which means I spend my days fixing things, networks, broken code, poor architecture decisions made by guys who got promoted too fast. I like structure, logic. I like knowing that when you do X, you get Y. Simple, clean, predictable. Jessica, my wife, was anything but predictable. We met 9 years ago at a mutual friend's New Year's Eve party. She was loud, bold, the kind of woman who could make a whole room laugh without trying. I was quiet, the guy near the drinks table laughing too hard at everyone's jokes. She said I had kind eyes and that I looked like someone who'd never cheat. I told her she looked like trouble. She grinned and said, "Only the good kind." I fell hard. We got married 3 years later. No kids, not by accident, but by decision. Careers came first. Adventure, second. We traveled a lot. Hiked the Andes. Spent 2 weeks in Kyoto. We were partners. Teammates. That's what I believed. Until the cracks started showing. It began with a night out. Jessica came home drunk. Not tipsy drunk. Slurring, stumbling, practically crawling. I helped her to bed, took off her heels, got her water. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. "You're so good to me," she said, giggling. "I don't deserve you." At the time, I smiled. No? I think she meant it. She started going out more after that. Always with the girls. A few times, she said they were celebrating someone's promotion, someone's divorce, someone's cousin moving to Tampa. Always someone. Always a reason. And always late. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't suspicious. But I told myself, don't be that guy. The jealous husband. The needy type. She had her life. I had mine. We respected each other's independence. That's what I told myself. Until the night I found her phone on the bathroom counter. Now, I'm not proud of this part. I'm not the kind of guy who snoops. But the screen was lit, a text flashing from a name I didn't recognize, Marcus, Jim. Just one line. "Last night was wild. Hope you're okay." My stomach dropped. I didn't open it. Not then. I set the phone back down and walked away, pretending I hadn't seen it. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe Marcus was some loudmouth trainer who texted all his clients inappropriate garbage. Or maybe I was grasping. I started noticing more. Jessica started wearing makeup to run errands. Lipstick when she went to Trader Joe's. Heels for happy hour. She started locking her phone, something she'd never done before. One night, she came home past midnight. Her hair was wet. I asked if it had started raining. She froze. Just for a second. Barely a blink. But I saw it. "Oh, yeah. Caught in it on the way to the car," she said. Thing was, I'd been watching the weather. Not a drop of rain all day. Bone dry. That night, lying beside her in bed, I stared at the ceiling and realized I didn't know who was sleeping next to me. Her breathing was soft, steady, peaceful. Meanwhile, my mind was doing backflips. Had I missed it? Had it been happening all along? I started keeping track, mentally, at first. Her comings and goings. Her excuses. A new password on her laptop. A weird Uber charge at 3:21 a.m. on a Tuesday. Once, I found a hotel key card in the pocket of her jacket. When I asked, she said it was from a bachelorette party. The kind where they all get rooms. Harmless fun. The key card was dated 4 days prior. No party on her calendar. No group photos online like there usually were. Just one missing weekend. Then there was the night it all clicked. She came home, drunk again. Slurring. Barely able to stand. I got her into bed, same as always. But this time, she said something different. Something that didn't fade in the morning. "I'm sorry, Eric," she whispered. I didn't mean to. I didn't know it would happen like this. "What are you talking about?" I asked, brushing the hair from her face. She blinked slowly, dazed. "I think I'm pregnant." I stared at her, stunned. "Jess, how?" "We've been careful." She didn't answer. Her eyelids fluttered, and she passed out cold. That's when I knew. I'd had a vasectomy 2 years ago. We hadn't talked about reversing it. She knew that. She'd been with me at the appointment. So either the clinic lied to me, or something far worse was true. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there, next to the woman I'd once believed was my ride or die, wondering how long I'd been living with a stranger, wondering what kind of man she thought I was, wondering if she ever thought I'd find out. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I stared into the dark and whispered to myself, she's hiding something. And I'm going to find out what. Part 2. I woke up the morning after her drunken confession like someone had pressed reset on my reality. You'd think I'd be furious. Maybe I was. But it was a quiet rage, still, cold, controlled. The kind that doesn't yell or throw things. It just waits, sharpens, makes lists. She didn't remember what she said, or pretended not to. When I asked how she was feeling, she groaned, said she had a headache, and made a joke about mixing cocktails with tequila shooters. I just nodded. You said something strange last night, I told her casually. She paused, brushing her hair in the mirror. Yeah, you said you might be pregnant. She froze, just for a second, but it was enough. Her reflection caught mine, and her eyes flickered with something I couldn't quite name. God, she laughed. Well, that'd be something, wouldn't it? No way, though. I was just drunk. Probably dreaming. Dreaming. It started there. That first lie she laid down like a floorboard. I stepped on it and heard it creak. I wasn't going to confront her head on. Not yet. You don't pull a fire alarm unless you smell smoke. I needed more than suspicion. I needed certainty. Proof. That afternoon, I took a mental health day from work and drove to a pharmacy 20 minutes out of town. I didn't want to risk being seen. I bought a prepaid phone and an SD card. Later, I installed a cloning app on her phone while she was in the shower. 10 minutes. That's all it took. Just long enough for her to scrub off whatever truth she thought she could hide. The cloned phone mirrored everything. Texts, emails, apps. It even showed me her location when she had GPS turned on, which, thankfully, was most of the time. For a while, there was nothing. Just the usual. Shopping, messages from coworkers, funny memes from her friend Amber. I started to wonder if I'd imagined everything. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe this whole thing was some kind of tragic miscommunication between two people who forgot how to talk. And then, one Friday night, I saw it. A text from someone labeled D. Drinks at 8 again? Can't stop thinking about last time. Last time? I waited. 10 minutes later, she told me she was meeting her sister for wine. Just us girls, she said with a smirk. You'll be okay without me? Of course, I said. Take your time. She left wearing that red blouse. The one that hugs every curve and says I'm not just here to drink. I watched her drive off and then opened the clone. She messaged D again. Be there soon. Don't be late this time, winking face. I tracked the location. Not a bar. A hotel. The address lit up like a slap across the face. I didn't follow. Not because I was scared, but because I didn't want to blow it. I needed more than digital breadcrumbs. I needed something real. The next day, I asked about her night. She said her sister got a little tipsy and overshared about her new boyfriend. She laughed, but her eyes never left her phone. I smiled. Tell your sister I said hi. She didn't catch the edge in my voice. A week later, I went further. Bought a cheap voice recorder, wrapped it in black electrical tape, and slipped it under the driver's seat in her car. She never checked under the seat. She barely cleaned out her coffee cups. I waited. Days passed. She went about her routine. But one evening, after she got home late again, I retrieved the recorder. And I heard them. Not just her voice, his. They were laughing. Talking about how she almost slipped up the other night. About how close he was to figuring it out. Then came a phrase that nearly made me drop the recorder. He still thinks it's his. She laughed. If only he knew how drunk I was. I don't even remember half of it. But I do remember who it wasn't. Silence. Then his voice again. What if he finds out? She didn't answer right away. Then, coldly. Then I'll deal with it. Deal with it. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared. She was calculating. Dangerous in that quietly venomous way only someone you once loved can be. And still, I said nothing. Instead, I began to compare timelines. Her lies versus her GPS locations. Her receipts against her claimed errands. I matched every hour she was getting groceries with the locations she actually visited. One Saturday, she said she'd gone to Whole Foods. The app said she was at a park across town for nearly 2 hours. I drove there the next day. Parked. Waited. A man showed up. Tall, tan, button-down shirt, gym duffel slung over one shoulder. I took a photo from my car. When he left, I followed him at a distance. He drove to a fitness center. I waited until he went inside, then checked my wife's texts again. Same spot next weekend? Yeah. You bring the wine. I'll bring the blanket, winking face. And just like that, I had a face. That night, Jessica curled into bed next to me like nothing was wrong. Her skin warm. Her scent familiar. She kissed my shoulder, whispered good night. I whispered back, night. But in my head, I was 1,000 miles away, watching every lie she'd ever told line up in neat little rows. The truth wasn't just cracking through, it was flooding in. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I noticed something strange in the bathroom trash. A box. Not of condoms. Not even Plan B. It was a pregnancy test. Used. The box was hidden beneath tissues and makeup wipes. And it was positive. She never said a word. Part 3. You never forget the moment everything you believed in dies. It doesn't go quietly. It doesn't drift off into some peaceful, dreamlike fade-out. No, it goes screaming, like metal grinding against metal, like teeth snapping shut on a hand you thought you could trust. Monday morning, I called in sick. Not because I couldn't work, but because I had work of a different kind. The kind that lives in the shadows. The kind of work you do when you stop asking why and start asking how far is too far. I made 2 calls. First, to a private investigator I found online, vetted, low profile, and expensive enough to know he was legit. His name was Clay. Deep voice. No small talk. I liked him immediately. Second, I called a lawyer. Not to file anything. Not yet. Just to understand what my options were if, when things escalated. Jessica still didn't know that I knew. That was my power. Her ignorance was my armor. Every smile she gave me was a little more ammunition in my war chest. Every lie she wrapped in lipstick and laughter made me colder. Clay got to work right away. I gave him everything. Her routines, locations, the man I saw at the park, even the hotel address. I didn't want speculation. I wanted certainty. Because what was coming next required it. 3 days later, I had it. I opened the envelope in my car, parked outside a diner like a cliché PI scene in a bad movie. Inside were high-resolution photos. Date-stamped. Time-stamped. There was Jessica in that same red blouse, entering a hotel hand-in-hand with a man who wasn't me. They were smiling. His hand rested low on her back. Another photo, him kissing her neck in the lobby. The front desk clerk looking the other way. Then them exiting the elevator 2 hours later. Hair messy. Clothes slightly disheveled. And finally, the one that tore through me like a blade dipped in acid. Jessica standing by his car, wrapped around him like a teenager in love, her head on his chest. He kissed the top of her head. She laughed. I didn't move. Just sat there in the driver's seat, holding the photos like they were a map to some terrible truth I couldn't unsee. It wasn't the affair that gutted me, it was the look on her face. Pure. Unapologetic. Joy. I'd never seen her look at me like that. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't punch the steering wheel or toss the envelope across the car. I just breathed. Cold, methodical breaths. The kind you take when you're preparing for something that can't be undone. I went home and placed the photos in a box beneath the guest bed. Jessica greeted me like nothing had changed. How was work? She asked. Long, I replied. She kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch. That night, I waited until she was asleep and went through her purse again. Inside, I found a crumpled receipt from the pharmacy. Prenatal vitamins. And suddenly it all clicked, like some sick jigsaw puzzle only the devil would design. She wasn't guessing she was pregnant. She knew. She'd known. And she hadn't said a word. I sat in the living room, lights off, the faint hum of the fridge in the kitchen my only companion. The house felt hollow. The walls didn't echo anymore. It was like the soul of this place, the marriage, the memories, the laughter, had packed up and left. I thought about everything. About how she used to joke that I was too good for her. How she said she didn't deserve me. At the time, I thought it was flattery. Now, I wondered if it was guilt trying to confess itself. I thought about the vasectomy I'd had. The awkward consultations. The paperwork. The ice packs. The little pat on the back from the doctor when it was done. All of it now, meaningless. Because someone else had gotten her pregnant. And not just that, she was going to let me believe it was mine. There are betrayals you recover from. Late-night texts. Emotional affairs. Even physical ones. But this was a different species altogether. She was building a lie so massive, so invasive, it would have become part of me. I would have raised that child. Called it mine. Named it. Loved it. And she would have let me. That was the deepest cut. So I didn't scream. I didn't confront. I didn't ask questions. Instead, I started planning. Every quiet dinner became a strategic observation. Every smile she gave me was a move in a chess game she didn't know she was losing. I documented everything. Backed up texts. saved photos, logged her movements. I became a machine. And the more I watched, the more I realized this wasn't just a one-time mistake. It wasn't drunken passion. It wasn't an accident. She was in love with him. That's what burned most of all, because somewhere along the line, I'd stopped being her person, her partner, her home. I had become a placeholder, a cover story, a backup plan in case her fantasy life collapsed. And the saddest part? I never even saw it happen. But now, I see everything. The nights out, the secrets, the lies wrapped in lipstick and breath mints, the moans whispered in another man's ear. And now, the child, his child, growing inside the woman who used to be mine. So no, I didn't rage. I didn't fall apart. I sat in the dark, stared at the closed bedroom door, and said nothing. Because the time for talking was over. Now, it was time to execute. Part 4. It turns out betrayal has layers. You think it ends with an affair. Maybe a secret pregnancy. But sometimes, it's just the tip of a very rotten iceberg. And once you start peeling it back, you realize how deep the decay goes. A week after Clay delivered the photos, he called me again. There's more, he said. I didn't know if you wanted to go this far, but you need to see this. He dropped the new file at a storage unit I'd rented under a different name. Inside was a USB drive and a stack of paper records, credit card statements, bank activity, a handful of flagged transactions from an account I didn't know we had. Jessica had opened it 3 years ago under her maiden name. At first, I thought, maybe a savings stash, something for emergencies. Then I looked at the deposits, thousands of dollars, monthly. Then I looked at the sources, transfers from a business account that didn't belong to me or her company. It belonged to mine. I stared at the numbers, blinking hard, like my eyes would eventually make them lie. Somehow, someway, she'd managed to siphon money from my side work, freelance cybersecurity gigs I ran on the side, to that account. Clay helped me dig. Turns out, she wasn't just having an affair. She was laundering my income through a shell company registered under her friend's name. And guess who the friend was? Marcus. The same man from the hotel. The one kissing her in the lobby. This wasn't just infidelity. It was theft. It was fraud. It was deliberate. And yet, every morning, she smiled at me over coffee and asked if I wanted oat milk or half and half. Every night, she curled into bed like she wasn't building a second life funded by the one she was betraying. I needed a plan, not revenge. Precision. So I played along. I let her believe she was winning, that I was still in the dark. I'd ask casual questions. How's work? Still keeping up with your accounting clients? She'd shrug, say it was all fine. Smile. I smiled back. Meanwhile, I got to work. First, I met with my lawyer. We froze our joint assets under suspicion of financial misconduct. Quietly, discreetly. No warning. Then, I filed for emergency spousal protection on the grounds of financial abuse and fraud. I had all the paperwork, the accounts, the proof. Next, I pulled out of the freelance contracts that were unknowingly sending payments into her shell company. I redirected those funds, deleted her access to anything with my name on it. Then came the trap. Jessica's birthday was approaching. She always threw herself a party, something dramatic, over the top. This year, she wanted a co-ed garden soiree, her words. Think wine, fairy lights, acoustic covers of 90s hits, and people pretending they liked Brie. I agreed. Told her she deserved it. I'll even handle the slideshow, I said. Photos from the past few years. Memories. She beamed. Kissed me. Called me the best husband ever. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m. editing the video. On the day of the party, I played host like nothing was wrong. Her coworkers arrived. Some of mine. A few mutual friends. I even shook hands with Marcus. He didn't recognize me at first. I guess I wasn't the type to make a scene. But he smiled. Smug. Smiling like he knew something I didn't. I just poured his wine. Jessica floated around in a white dress like she was the star of some Hallmark wedding reboot. Glowing. Radiant. Pregnant. Then I tapped a spoon to a glass and said, if I could have everyone's attention, I put together a little something for Jessica. She clapped her hands. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered on. The first few slides were safe, vacations, anniversary dinners, our dog when he was still alive. Laughter, clinking glasses, fake smiles. Then the screen changed. A hotel lobby. Jessica. Marcus. Kissing. Another slide, her in his lap, outside the park. Another, her bank statements. Her name on 2 accounts. My freelance income highlighted in red. Then a video clip. Her voice. If he finds out, I'll deal with it. The silence was vacuum tight. Her mother gasped. Her coworker dropped a glass. Jessica just stood there, frozen. I walked over to the screen, unplugged the projector, and turned on the lights. Jessica, I said calmly, your access to our joint assets has been revoked. My attorney will be in touch. As of tomorrow morning, you'll be receiving official notice of divorce proceedings under fraud and financial misconduct. She stammered, blinking hard, trying to find words that wouldn't come. Marcus was already gone, slipped out like a rat when the lights come on. You can keep the house, I said. I'll be gone by Monday. It's poisoned anyway. Then I raised my glass to the crowd. To honesty, I said, even when it hurts. And I drank. She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't scream. Just stood there as the walls came down around her, crumbling brick by brick with every whispered conversation, every shocked stare from people who used to call her friend. She tried to talk to me as the party emptied, begged me to come upstairs, said we could fix it. I just looked at her, cold and steady. I'm not angry, I said. I'm done. Then I walked out the door and didn't look back. Part 5. There's this strange silence after a storm. Not peace, not relief, just a kind of emptiness where the noise used to be. That's what life felt like after I walked out of that house. Not a triumph, not revenge fulfilled, just a heavy, ringing quiet. The weeks that followed were surgical, precise. I signed what I had to sign, moved out, transferred the house deed to her name with the stipulation she handle all related costs, an agreement crafted by my lawyer that she couldn't afford to refuse once we laid out the financial fraud she'd committed. Jessica lost her job 2 weeks after the party. Word travels fast in her industry, especially when the slideshow goes viral. Someone leaked it. I never found out who. Maybe her sister. Maybe Clay. Maybe karma finally decided to clock in. I didn't need to gloat. Watching her unravel from a distance was enough. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. Spartan. Clean. Cold, maybe. But mine. I filled it with silence and cheap furniture and one old couch I didn't bother to clean, because it reminded me that comfort wasn't the point right now. I got back to work, real work. No more side gigs. No more chasing extra income. I focused on rebuilding what she tried to siphon away. Quiet mornings. Late night coding. Meals I didn't have to share. Every once in a while, I'd catch myself reaching for 2 plates out of habit. Then I'd stop, put one back, and remind myself, one is enough now. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. 3 months after everything blew up, I got a letter. Not an email, not a call. An actual letter, sealed, handwritten, deliberate. From Marcus's wife. Her name was Brooke. Turns out, she'd been watching things unravel from her own corner of hell. She'd known about Jessica and Marcus for nearly a year, but hadn't confronted either of them. She was building a case, quietly gathering proof for her own legal war. Inside the envelope, she included screenshots of texts, financial records, and most shocking of all, a photo of Jessica, pregnant, standing next to Marcus, smiling. They were still together. She hadn't just cheated on me and gotten pregnant. She'd planned to raise the child with him. My betrayal wasn't a one-time drunken mistake. It was a full-on exit strategy. Brooke wrote, "You deserve to know the whole truth. I didn't do this to help her. I did it because I know what it's like to love someone who weaponizes loyalty. I'm sorry." I sat there, the photo in my hand, her round belly against his side, and I felt something unexpected. I laughed. Not loud, not bitter, just a single, breathy laugh that came from somewhere deep and raw. Because that was it. That was the final piece. Jessica never planned to tell me the baby wasn't mine. She was going to stay long enough to see how much she could get from me. Maybe let me raise the kid until the math didn't add up. Maybe pin it on some failed vasectomy. Maybe feed me just enough affection to keep me tethered. She was going to gut me in real time. But I beat her to the punch. I never replied to Brooke. Didn't need to. She'd said her piece, and I'd heard it. Closure doesn't always come with answers. Sometimes it comes with knowing you finally stopped being the fool. Then, last week, the final nail. Jessica showed up. At my door. Pale, disheveled, eyes hollow like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. She looked older. Smaller. "Eric," she said, barely above a whisper. "Can I come in?" I didn't move. Just stood there, letting her stew in the silence. "I'm sorry," she choked. I don't even know where to start. Everything's gone wrong." He left. He said he wasn't ready. I'm alone, and I don't know what I was thinking. I was drunk when it happened. I didn't plan it, and then it spiraled. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't. I held up a hand. You came here because your plan blew up, I said. Not because you miss me. You came here because you thought I might still be the man you could manipulate. She blinked, tears forming. I don't hate you, I added. I'm not even angry anymore. But I'm not your safety net. You burned that. I'm still pregnant, she whispered. I don't have anyone. I nodded. That's not my problem anymore. She broke. Right there on my doorstep. I didn't comfort her. I didn't ask if she had a place to go. I didn't soften. I watched her cry, and then I closed the door. Slow. Deliberate. Final. She didn't knock again. Now, I sit here, months removed from the wreckage. No redemption arc. No new love story. Just a man who walked through the fire and came out charred, not shattered. You don't get your old self back after something like this. You bury him, and you build a new one on top. Someone who doesn't confuse love with sacrifice. Someone who doesn't trade his peace for proximity. Someone who doesn't beg to be chosen. I used to think strength was about holding on. Now I know it's about knowing when to let go and letting the silence stay. Because finally, it's mine. The end.